Okay, so if this recording goes public, we have here Crystal Walker.
Hey, everybody.
We have Judy Jandora.
Hello, everybody.
We have Sheri Gordon.
Hey, guys.
And we have Dan Alvin.
Hello.
I think everybody... Well, I can't speak for the people listening to this if it comes to a point where this turns out to be a shareable audio. But I think most people are familiar with myself, Judy, and Sheri, if not at least Crystal for the show that we were on. Mm-hmm. Maybe Dan, you've been on a couple shows as well.
Yeah, I do a show with She Glides By on
that's
CGB thing on Blog Talk.
Oh, I didn't know.
Right, so we're all radio hosts. We all get it. We all know that we're people who... are on this sort of leading edge of thought. And I actually come across some really interesting things to contemplate. And I wanted to have an unbiased approach from everyone here to sort of powwow on a couple subjects. Now, they're kind of intense, so they're not for anyone. Feel they can delve into things that are really let's just say triggers for some people. So this conversation may be a bit much, I don't know, but it's really for some heavy processing that I think all of us are kind of ready for. This is not necessarily individual processing, but what we can share from where we are, and we can see what we discover through this conversation. So it's a powwow, I guess.
I've been to a lot of those.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
It sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, I imagine on the Opal Tour, this sort of thing happens all the time. This is just a virtual version of it. I did want to start off by something that happened that came to me. The Pleiadians gave me a really, really clear message on commute home from work today. And I was with Crystal, so she can reflect on my reaction to it. They basically told me some really clear things. Either they told me some things, or I just became immediately aware of some things. Less so much like they're telling me, almost more like I was part of those involved in making it happen on some level. But what came to me, do you know what time it was? Was it like 5 o'clock maybe? 5 p.m.?
It was a little before 5, I think.
A little bit before 5. I'm just sharing this in case anyone can corroborate this. Would be ideal.
That's Pacific time, by the way.
Pacific time, so yeah. West Coast time.
2 hours away. 2 hours.
Yeah, two hours ago about. I don't even know how clear it was. It's almost as clear as if somebody had just told me and I was repeating it.
You equated it to almost like a mass email send out.
Yeah, kind of like a mass email type of feeling. Everyone's getting this memo. The Pleiadians have decided to shelter Cabal members that want to exit this game. Cool. And there was almost an immediate response of quite a few individuals that says, yes, I'll take that pass. And they essentially are to be picked up tomorrow night, Friday night, or start to become picked up tomorrow night, Friday night. And they'll be just taken from the planet. And if you agree to some basic terms, essentially that you're not coming back unless you're in vibrational harmony with those awakening and the Lightworker community, you can ask to be picked up tomorrow evening, night.
I don't know. Now these aren't people who just decided that that's what they want to do, but people who are these are vibrational resonance with them, at least, to even be able to have that offer extended.
Well, the specific individuals are those who have been holding the contrast specifically. I already got a key in on exactly how many accepted this invitation.
Wow.
It's approximately 23% of all those that have intentionally held the contrast, feeling it is the best thing for humanity. Now, that's one of the subjects I wanted to share and talk about, was the partners in contrast reality and exactly what they are. But I just wept like a baby.
Yeah, you did.
I was like, oh my God. This space created by the Pleiadians for literally taking in people who have known that they've wanted to shift their polarity, but have been imprisoned in a system where they can only be one way.
Right, like their
Sure.
only value is to be like a
To support
a rascal.
Right, a rascal or whatnot.
Yeah.
Right.
In addition,
A rascal. Wow.
In addition, I actually connected very profoundly with a parallel life of mine, who was one of these individuals who appears to be taking this offer.
His name is also Julian.
His name happens to be Julian. I'm not going to say his last name,
Julian
but I shared it
with an
before.
A, though.
Spelled with an A. He is I'm not going to give too much data. Maybe after tomorrow it might be a little safer to do so. But he's involved in stock market manipulation. That's been his
Cool.
modus operandi and his role, to flare up certain markets and share insider information that may not necessarily be true. And I actually felt from his perspective, he also has 2 daughters like I do, and he has a wife at the moment, and they're not going to go with him. It's up to him if he returns to a balance to return. He apparently has not disclosed to them how much involved he is. Now, he's not part of a family, but is essentially a being that's been cornered into doing the role that he's doing.
Hold on a second. Excuse me for interrupting, but from my perspective, Julian, you're really breaking up, and I'm almost getting nothing of what you're saying. Is that the case with the rest of you, or can you hear him well?
It's fine from here.
Sheri?
Crystal clear for me.
Yeah, clear from here.
Okay, then it must be from my end. So continue on, please.
Must be your connection.
Yeah.
So we can talk.
Do you want to try something to alleviate that for a second, or do you? I'm sorry, Judy, or
maybe disconnect and reconnect?
Go with the flow.
Yeah, I actually just disconnected a little thingy that's right by here that I thought may be interfering. So that may be a part of it, and I just turned off. So maybe that'll do it. So let's go ahead and continue and see how that looks.
Okay.
Cool.
From our end, you're coming through loud and clear.
And right now you're coming through clear. So I apologize for breaking that up, because I'll just go back and listen to it later when I get the recording to hear what.
We want to make sure the sound is good, so always give feedback if you're not hearing well.
Sure. Okay. Cool.
Should we ask questions if we have them as we excuse me, as you go, Julian?
Yeah. No, absolutely. At any point, I think this is the kind of group we can be open to interruption, to ping and clarify or ask questions. So did you have something at the moment, Dan?
Just the detail is this specific person, and then the others. I don't know if I missed it, but I don't think you clearly indicated whether or not they were requesting this shelter, or it was kind of offered to them.
No, it was an offer, an open offer as a solution by a particular Pleiadian group.
So basically it's there's, amongst the people who are in the Cabal, or our partners in contrast, there's a percentage of them who are wanting to kind of turn over a new leaf.
Yes.
And so the Pleiadians kind of came in and said, we'll help disperse the density of this group by taking out those who
not for the purpose of dispersing the density of the group, but to give people a chance to get out, essentially.
And to not feel threatened by the population that is, looking to draw and quarter them. If
that's right. They will basically.
The writing on the wall. They were told the writing is on the wall.
That's a good. That's a good terminology. And I'm getting it's starting tomorrow night, or maybe all tomorrow night is the pack-up date.
That is so cool.
Wow.
From one angle, I can imagine a large amount of destabilization of their structure.
24% is a huge number.
23%.
Huge number, because we're talking millions.
I'm getting that this is actually not millions.
Well, no, I mean that the whole group is millions, and 24% is quite a large number. Unless we're talking about only like a particular
number.
Slice.
I'm going to tell you the exact number is about 54,000.
Okay, that's beautiful. God, that's huge.
It may require a more specific definition of those that are getting this sort of email. I believe it is the type of individual that can access this information. So it would be a particular echelon, perhaps.
Right. Some of these people aren't in public necessarily. They don't have public lives so much as where they're doing this work, like the stock trader. Or are they on that sort of a level of activity?
I'm getting a very large gamut. Maybe it's...
That makes sense.
My feeling and the sense that I'm getting is that it's like a certain tier of aware individual within their own pyramid system.
And these people aren't to be like replaced or copied in some way. Like they're just gonna go.
No, they're gonna vanish from the earth.
Wow. Okay.
They're just gonna go missing.
Okay.
So will some kind of cover be provided for them? I guess that's why I was wondering about how public these lives were.
I'm getting it'll be sort of like the pieces will fall where they may.
Sure.
Wow.
Okay.
That is going to create so much, like,
it's going to.
I would say it's drama, chaos.
It could very well.
Which is wonderful.
Be what is it? The thing that breaks the camel's back.
Because everyone who's not part of that is going to know it happened, and that's going to create a crazy cascade.
Yeah.
Of choices, whatever they will be.
Well, if it's not a catalyst, I don't know what it is.
Right.
Right.
But the primary intent via the side of the Pleiadians is that a space is created for healing and for reawakening to their light selves without having to go with the others towards a negative polarity reality.
Right. Wow. So they're gonna get to skip that whole fourth density negative thing.
I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Are you referring to the article that I pointed out?
Yeah.
To read. Well, we can start talking about that article a little bit if you'd like. So you read it, Sheri? Did you read it? Dan, did you catch on to this article?
I think I saw it some time ago. I didn't dabble back into it though, honestly.
Well,
just for your information, I've read it twice before, and I read it in full just yesterday. So I'm very up on it, and now I am, and I was able to integrate it in a way because my vibration's different now than it was before. I was able to get many layers of what was going on with it, and it was actually quite a joy to read.
I'm sure you could see things within it, probably reading it now, that that your average reader will just not see. Like things will not be in perspective, per se.
Yeah.
relative to you live your own individual truth and reality. Because on one level, they live from a place where everything is still an invitation, even though it feels that it's not for so many people. It's because we've accepted invitation after invitation after invitation. We feel that we are locked into their choice of how things are going to operate here on Earth. But ultimately, when anyone basically takes their sovereignty over every action that they live, including how they will act within a reality established in contrast to maybe what their heart says, right, they have no power over you. Right. They really don't.
No. That was really well said. Yeah, that's why I could never get past the first page. I've tried, I think, 4 times. I think I said on our thread. You just summed it up perfectly. That's exactly. I've never the level of arrogance. I did not feel like I wanted to spend that much time reading so deeply into that perspective. And I've tried a few years ago, a couple times, and then I came across it, I think last year, and then you just posted it again. And I'm sure it's jam-packed with a ton of awesome energy and information, but man, I don't know. I guess it could be just a time thing, you know? When I think about how long it is and how much time it would take to tone, I would really have to get in a super academic, scholarly state.
Sure.
And I don't know if I've been able to prioritize doing that or not.
And the purpose really that I've felt from it, I've only seen it once. I really have. And I didn't even read all of it. I basically skimmed to areas that I was drawn to. What it's really doing here is laying the slate clean karmically. Mm-hmm. You see, you will not learn anything unless you invite it into existence. So essentially, they're sharing based on the proclivity of those who are able to ask at the time that the opening was given. Okay. Now, what I wanted to share is that I am able to connect with a couple beings, but one in particular who would be considered very intimidating within that group. Psychically, I can connect. I generally have a locked door to this person for the most part, but I've had a couple occasions where I've asked questions, and the ego is amazing. The presumption is amazing. The intensity of this person's conviction of who they are is amazing. Almost like a god.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so that's why I don't have the door open all the time, because this person could easily brainwash anyone given enough time to do so.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of them actually do have their memories of why they're here in the first place, and their goal for themselves to be able to get out of this game finally is to create for their group a 95% or 95% negative polarity. And that doesn't mean create it within our reality, but for themselves, they have to produce from within themselves into our reality 95% negative polarity. And they want so desperately to have this game over because they're 6-dimensional beings who came down to actually play a game of being the contrast for us from the very beginning when Yahweh actually had this whole thing going, and the Garden of Eden, everybody was tra-la-laing along and just, kind of blissing out, and it was all beautiful, but there was no progress being made towards the realization that they were also creators, and there was no evolution happening. And in 3D reality, it's about evolution. And so there was this call out to the Galactic Federation and saying, hey, I know that, I'm having fun here, but I'm not kind of doing, actually he was called upon and said, you're not really kind of doing your job, dude. And so what happened was they called out to soul groups and said, you know, do any of you want to come in and help out here? And the Luciferian soul group decided to at least take a look. And when they came in, there was some funky stuff going on, and Yahweh got pissed off because these people turned against him, and actually ate from the tree of good and evil, which was the polarity thing. And he got upset, and he kind of tried to trap the Luciferian group in here, and they, you know, called out to the Galactic Federation and said, you know, this isn't really the way it's supposed to work. And they said, well, look, you can come back if you want to. You can, you know, you can come on out, but you won't be able to go back in and help anymore. You know, we'll have to find another way of doing this. And they said, you know, it's all right. We'll stay. We'll go ahead and do this. But when they did that, the grid got shut down by Yahweh, actually. And so that's kind of the center part of it. But the contracts that were written before it all got done was that they had to be able to go through this whole polarity thing. They had to produce a particular amount of negativity towards this time of the harvest, or the harvest, so that they could finally come out of the polarity and get their way back into their sixth-dimensional reality. And they really are wanting to do that. So they're working really, really hard at maintaining the negative polarity, and there are levels that go all the way out of this earth, within the earth, and others, and then you've got all of the ones that are here on earth that come down to almost every town, basically there are certain ones who are very aware of their connection to oneness. And then there are those who have taken this story and just fallen into it so deeply that they've kind of lost themselves within it, and are doing things that really aren't of the, you know, kind of thing that they're supposed to do, because they don't necessarily have to be so incredibly cruel. But they're, you know, I know that many of you have probably heard of some of the people who have talked about, you know, leaving it and what happens to them, what kind of conditioning that they all go through here as a part of creating their own polarity, which can be extremely cruel.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, so right now, or back then, because this was written in 2008, at the end of 2008, I believe. In fact, it was published on, I just noticed this yesterday, December 27th, 2008, which was my birthday.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of my little wrap up for, you know, kind of giving you a little bit of background on that, what was said.
Well, that was an excellent summary, and it's brought up a lot of talking points, I feel, probably questions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are a number of, well, we'll just keep it one at a time. A number of thoughts that I had when you were sharing. One was that there are those who are aware of their role, and those who are enveloped in the mindset that they live within, their own personal programming, which is all
True.
Mostly ego-based.
Yes.
That they perpetuate per their ego.
Mm-hmm.
Now those, you know, the moment that those feel connections to their higher selves, the illusion is dropped pretty quickly, because the ego doesn't stand as much a chance relative to what your heart says.
Can I interject just for a second with that? Because I think it's important to, just for you to understand too, that each one of these beings is connected through groups within the town, and then the region, and then the country, and then internationally, and then off-world, by about 3 different levels. And the guy who actually did this interview is Hidden Hand, and he is about 2 levels above on planet. He's off planet.
Uh-huh.
Just so you know.
Now, the ego will hide this awareness. Mm-hmm. We call it the veil. It's essentially being caught up in our current present place and time with not as much connection to our higher being. Now, what some may note is that you can have a connection to your higher being whether you're in a positive mood or not. You can have a higher, connection to your higher being when you're down in the dumps too.
You always do.
So the state of mind and the state of positivity is not required to have a connection to your higher mind. I just want to make that clear. The ability to have supernatural abilities like telekinesis and teleportation does not require you to be of positive mindset either.
Right. Definitely not. Definitely not.
All you need to know is just how great a being you really are and how connected you are to all that there is. Therefore, opening yourself up to rewriting your local reality. Now, what I wanted to bring up was the 95% they call the harvest, and that is basically 95% negativity. Why is it not 100%? Well, because 100% would mean that there's such a level of dissonance and discordance, they would actually be not supporting their instinctual ability to live physically. They would be eliminated, they'd be offing each other too quickly, you see. Just like a cannibal doesn't have a very sustainable future, So the 5% is literally to be able to follow the human instinctual drive to live. There has to be some level of connection. But the 95% is that place that is not about let's just be evil, let's just be mean. I think we should define a little bit what that is for some people so that they get an idea of what it is to be, a contrast. What is it to have a job where you can, basically do what you want, but it's still in a particular direction? I have a feeling, Sheri, you wanted to say something?
The 95%, the other percent, it was just thinking that there's a self-preservation.
Uh-huh.
And that's pretty much the only thing there.
Exactly.
There's that holding of one's existence in check.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like the what's in check is not up to you.
Okay.
Right? That what's in check is already some rules. The partners
just enough self-preserve to propagate the program.
Well, you'll note that this, for lack of a better word, community of those in Partners of Contrast, they have rules. In fact, they have rules like we've never seen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, their lives are not fun.
Indeed.
You almost wonder how it feels to walk around with handcuffs all day.
Mm-hmm.
Probably make you feel like a crazy person.
It might, like a straight coat or something. But there is a sense of comfort in community. So they literally work amongst themselves to support their internal community. Now you might say, the Opal group, as they've been on tour, sure, they've got lots of personalities, lots of different opinions and whatnot, but there's that, ground level of community where, we all know that we're on a certain level of same page. That this certain level of same page, were you to just take it to any community, they'd scratch their head a moment and try to see what everyone here is all crazy the same way about.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
it's kind of been what I've been my life's work, man.
Yeah, I believe you.
These guys are intense. Intense. I'm not talking about the Opal tour. I'm talking about these, the Partners in Contrast, what they go through and what their agenda is and how close they keep themselves to themselves within their groups, it's intense.
Yes, and at every corner there's a program. Yeah. And it's and they even many of them even know what the program is, and that's why they have a hierarchy arrangement. Mm-hmm. Depending on where you are in the hierarchy, you're aware of all programs that you haven't become aware of, right? Now, the role is not to educate everyone on how the programs are, but to literally allow each individual to see if they can identify the program independently of being educated of what the program is, which denotes a level of responsibility and soul age with regard to advancement.
And they also say it's a need to know kind of thing as well.
That no one's going to share anything. You've got to figure it out yourself. And in that game, it is you make a wrong call, you might be out of the game and reincarnated again in a whole new life and start over.
Definitely.
So I want to share a couple things that were not relative to this article, but these are things that come up, and this is and this is where I wanted to say it might get a little bit itchy for some, and this is the programming of children. Mm-hmm. They have children, you see, and the children are raised through this group, and there is obviously programming. We're familiar with programming. We've sent our children to school. We know what the programming is like.
Yeah.
But in this case, the programming is like you're either an A+ student or you're a nobody. It's literally that level of standard of what you need to meet. And the nobodies, right? First off, they don't go to school publicly. None of them go to public school. Their school is a private tutoring. Every one of them. So they are not part of the system, so to speak. They're not part of the system that they are working within. They will not be a part of that. There's only a couple instances of that, and those are those who are very clear of where and who they are, and they already have an IQ that puts them beyond the parameters of what they're living. So you will not come across any Cabal children when you've gone to school. Did you want to say something, Crystal?
Well, I have a question about that. So these kids don't go into the system, so what stops their imaginations from keeping them awake and figuring out what...
Well, actually, what they have is a more intense version of programming.
Right. Oh my God. It's so sick, twisted.
It is literally taught through pain and punishment.
Oh God.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. But I will say that the adults are in the school system. They're in the rehabilitation systems within child services and hospitals and all government and all of that kind of thing. I mean, they literally, churches, that kind of thing. They really do run just about every system here.
Right. So there's no place where you could not be educated on some level. And of course that bleeds through as those adults that are a part of all these systems support the programming. So there's almost like there's the programming we know, right, that we've gone to school with, and
which is from them.
Which is from them. Program. That's right. It's established from them, but then they have their own internal programming.
Right.
Which is particularly harsh. Now, on one level, they don't think that it's harsh.
It's kind of like cops or the army.
Right. In the army, you take it. That's the status quo. You're drilled.
Kind of beyond. It's beyond our comprehension. I mean, the real. I mean.
Right.
Good Lord.
Right. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, okay, is that this other Julian wants to tell me, even though he was not within so specifically the Cabal system, as close as having his children and his wife programmed, he knows of it. And he is saying that the children actually are the ones, the child Cabal members are the ones that are actually have the most momentum to transition everything. Okay?
Yeah, that would make sense.
He's basically noting that, you can make a child, depressed and whatever and feel like it has no, you can make it feel like it's homeless, that the parents are, against them. And, you've seen rebellious teenagers grow up, they're like, that's it, I'm done with my parents, whatever. Except in this system, they aren't offered that opportunity. You're in it for life. There is no other thing. They're taught that this world that we live in, the secondary illusion, the established illusion, is essentially a world that does not welcome who they really are. Okay? It does not welcome that they are brilliant in understanding the way that reality functions. Now, their programming is not so much programming as in this is the way it is, this is the way it is. It's more along the subtle energetic level that says, there's really nothing else to do but follow suit with support this negative agenda, and that there is a good reason for you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Understand? That's the ultimate program that says you are born to be a bad guy.
Right.
Now, have any of you guys seen the movie Wreck-It Ralph by any chance?
Oh, good one.
Yeah, I watched it on the plane ride back when you gave me a copy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
Did you like it?
Wow.
I loved it. Yeah, I loved it.
So, just a quick, brief synopsis of it. It's a CG movie, so a 3D animated movie, where it's taken from the perspective of the villain of a video game, and they're in an arcade, and all the video games are networked by the power cables, and they all hang out after hours, and they all collaborate and talk about video games, and then they all go back to their game like it's their day job, and they live it out. However, there's this villain whose job is to destroy this apartment building, and the hero is Fix-It-Felix that comes around and fixes everything after this other guy is just smashing everything, right?
So it's a Wreck-It Ralph and Fix-It.
Wreck-It Ralph and Fix-It-Felix. Fix-It-Felix is the hero, and Wreck-It Ralph is the villain. But in this story that's shared, Wreck-It Ralph basically he decides that he wants, to get the attention. He wants to be the hero for once. He wants to change his status in life. And everything around him is saying, no, you don't change your status in life. You're a bad guy. But he goes to sort of like an Alcoholics Anonymous sort of group of bad guys. It's called Bad Anon.
It's really cute.
Where all the main villains, and they're actually well-known villains from games. So
wow.
Who's a gamer will kind of get it.
Mm-hmm.
From like Street Fighter and Sonic the Hedgehog, the bad guys are there. And they get together, and they're real, they're real chill. They're not like acting evil. They're just sort of like, hey, this is the way it is. You're a bad guy, but that doesn't mean you're a bad guy. The idea is that you're just doing your role, and just play along. But he decides that he just doesn't want to be treated as a bad guy anymore. In his heart, he doesn't feel it. And, he's part of an old school video game, so it's been around for a long time, and he's done this for 20 years or something. And he's having a change of heart where he basically wants to be the hero, and he wants to be acknowledged for being, important to the game that he's been designed into and all this sort of thing. And at this level, this is what the children of the Cabal are going through, and the children of those in those families. It's as if they are looking at the world outside, which is the majority world, which is the one, kind of like the one we're a part of, and they're saying, you know what? That world's better. And given a single opportunity, they'll be the ones that will say, come on, let's do the right thing. Because children are born with their hearts already open. They're born closer to their hearts before their egos are identified as being the most important part of themselves, and then the egos are programmed more and more to, to clamp down on things. Children have their hearts available, and even those in the greatest amount of pain, even the orphans, they have this energy that is close to the surface to come out. And what the other Julian is saying is that he believes that it'll be the children that will rewrite their entire Cabal Illuminati reality once certain conditions are met. Now, I don't know what those certain conditions are met, but the children are essentially ready. And the children of our time, the crystal children, the indigo children, and whatnot, they'll get along hand in hand like they never were part of the wrong team.
I was just about to ask you that. Are they going to work in like collective tandem with all the other?
They will, too? Because their hearts are all the same.
Yeah.
Everyone's heart is the same.
Oh, it's kind of like, do you remember at the end of that movie, Wreck-It Ralph, when, Wreck-It Ralph has found camaraderie and ends up working with the other girl who's like completely isolated and made out to be the glitch. And then after they defeat like the bad guy who's been messing, she's called the glitch, and they go up against this bad guy who's been kind of in mask in this other game. And then when he goes down, there's like this whole veil that comes off of the other characters, and they all start looking around and go, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I treated you so terribly. And like they all just find this common ground after that veil comes off of them.
Yes, so they're real little snots, actually.
Right.
The other racers in Candy Crush, or not Candy Crush, but the Candyland or something, Candy Racing or something.
Yeah.
And there are all these other little racers, and there's these little kid-like characters, and they're all kind of mean to the glitch, the girl who can't race because she's got an error in her code or whatever, and so she's not allowed to be part of the racing game. Anyways, yes, they all awaken like that veil has been lifted, but really it's a program, right? It's a program established, which means that it only applies to the ego, not to the higher being. The higher being is constantly trying to lead us down the path of those agreements that we've made and the agreements we've made to ourselves to reveal ourselves to our ego so that there can be a greater collaborative effort in going about and experiencing existence, right? The ego and the higher mind are meant to work together. They're sort of like the left and right sides of the brain in some respects, right? You've got the local awareness and you've got the broader awareness. Without them working together, you've either got a ghost floating around without being able to do anything because it's just so transient and ineffable, and you've got an ego that can't see past its nose. So the relationship balance is very important, and essentially what's coming to light through this entire transition and this entire phase of life that we're all a part of right now is the higher being is making headway in getting through to the ego, and the ego is starting to be more readily invited to a place where it can support the expansion of experience.
And the higher being's messages are making a lot more sense to the ego.
Right. Yes. Like the message is getting through more and more. Now, when you're born as a child, the higher being is right there because you don't have as much programming established, right? No matter who you are, whether you're in the Cabal, child circle, or whether you're in Africa, or whether you're in the United States or something, you're closer to you're closer to your imagination, and you're closer to your space of discovery, and you're less so committed to the rules, And you know how you have like that teenage rebellion that occurs at the age of 13 and around that time? That is a phase where literally you realize that the program or your heart is gotta be the primary, and the commitment to being connected to your heart and your higher being versus connected to following the robotic programming around us is the choice.
It's called a rebellion because, you know, more often than not, what your heart says is so drastically different than what the system is telling you.
That's right.
Should be.
Now, the system is designed a system literally to corral those who follow their heart a little too much. It's literally designed to make sure they fail school. It's made sure that...
Of course.
It's made, you know, it's designed to corral those in their heart to give them, you know, very little chance to succeid.
Well, you know what,
it would
guys?
appear.
I dropped out of college, and I'm not on the streets, and I'm not destitute or anything.
Yeah, I dropped out of college, too.
I didn't even go.
And they said we would succeed.
I've been a rebel all my life.
I graduated magna cum laude, and I've been homeless numerous times, so... Makes no difference whatsoever.
That's so cool. That's funny.
Yeah. Master's degree, unemployed.
Oh.
There you go. Perfect.
Well, I wanted. Did anybody have anything else to offer? I wanted to actually change subject.
No,
I had a couple of questions on that thread, but
okay, go shoot.
One is simple and easily answered. One is more complicated. I'll do the first one. That's simpler. So, is this strata of people that you referred to that are being made this offer? Do they all have these sorts of children who are looking to blossom into these roles, or I'm going to use the term eligible for lack of a better term at the moment? But is that part of maybe not all of them, but is that a vast majority or a certain percentage part of the deal?
Let me read into that. One moment.
Uh-oh.
About 60% are not blood members. So their children are not required to develop the programming. It is up to the parents to decide that. But 40% are their children are highly involved, and the children themselves, I'm getting, they all have a great place to flourish. It's almost like there's no need to invite them to a place for protection and rehabilitation. They will transition quickly.
I meant if they were left behind, though, as part of the
children themselves. The children themselves, there's essentially no worry behind what will become of them.
But okay, I guess I'm not stating my question clearly. I meant the people who would be leaving. Do they all have these type of kids?
No.
Almost. Is that part of the the demographic that's being offered?
Just the one that I'm particularly soul tied to, that I have a parallel past life experience with. This connection is very intense for me. I feel like I can do the stock market now. I feel like I have like trade secrets.
Wow.
That's how clear this other being is, and also clear that he is aware of me. There's been thoughts that he might contact me if we decided to do this, but he's essentially committed to
he's ready.
He's going. He's
going.
He's at his wit's end, and his heart is bursting and hurting.
Oh, God bless them.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of parallel, and Dan, I don't want to take up too much time for your other question. But as you've been talking about this whole thing, it keeps reminding me of somebody I know, which is not quite in the same intensity and alignment of what you've been talking about, but still sort of on that same kind of path. Anyway, they're tired. They're extremely tired.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And tiredness comes from resistance of yourself relative to the program. You age based on your resistance to your ego.
That's what you were saying. Why you broke into tears in the car was you plugged into that immense feeling of relief.
Yes.
That they had.
I wasn't crying because I was sad. I couldn't help it. I was like overwhelmed by the opening.
And I'm in like bumper to bumper traffic, and I just look over and I'm like, oh my god.
It's interesting too. You named the time because I remember looking at the clock at about 8 o'clock, which would have been the same time for you at 5 your time zone, and I just got this burst of like everything was so good.
Yeah, I was dancing around my apartment in total joy, listening to.
I was all over.
really
I was all
music.
over Spotify. Yeah, I was updating my music too.
Oh my god. That's cool.
I was listening to "Jump for My Love" by the Pointer Sisters. I played that song 3 times in a row, which I've never done in my life. It's from when It's from when I was 10 years old. I played it 3 times in a row, and I was like, "Wow, this has never happened." "Jump for My Love," Pointer Sisters. That was right about 7 o'clock.
I think we're all plugged into each other. All 5 of us, somehow.
Oh, no doubt.
Well, our soul group has a lot of relationships intertwined, I'm sure. So, did you have a second question, Dan?
It was more. It would have been keyed up more for if that was one of the requirements, or not, whatever. One of the possible deciding factors whether someone was eligible for this shelter / potential amnesty is whether they had these children, because that would be like a bridge to me between those two worlds. So that's why I was curious about that, because it was mostly a question if there were a bunch of them in that situation where the kids were part of the bridge. I was just curious about the ones that have been the most heavily damaged. I call them monarch babies, the ones that are really heavily manipulated in multiple layerings of their ego and so much fracturing and whatnot. But it doesn't sound like there's maybe a lot of those families will be involved anyway.
Is
it family at all, or is it just the individual?
It's the individual.
That's what I thought.
The individual will be contacted through their knowledge of telepathy. So those who are familiar with telepathy will...
And most of them are, at least in the mid to higher levels.
Yes. So that's why probably the numbers are not that high. That's why it's only around 50-some thousand. Now, there is... The children are going to be okay. That's very clear to me. The children have a future. And the children will... although there's... I know you've probably witnessed, monarch programming with young adults and children. That is about to be given sort of like a whole new face. I don't really know what that means, but it's almost like they will be like educators for the other children on one level. And these, you have to understand, these children in these families are so empowered in such a resolute way that their presence is extremely intense. Even though they're, it's almost like they're empowered because they know there's very little leeway to, that everything is absolutely got to be absolutely perfect. So it's, I want to say something that I'm not clear on, and that is exactly how they will do it, but that it's as if the Cabal children are a major, major key.
And the Cabal, they didn't see that coming?
They did. They did, but we're going to get into something a little bit more complicated, and this actually was the next subject.
I think we need another radio show, honey.
Are we talking about time?
Well, that's why I was
I
wondering about the level of programming as well. Go ahead, Judy.
I was just thinking as I was reading through Hidden Hand that the timelines have changed, and that how things are playing out from our perspective right now from 2008 is very different than, somewhat different than what he was talking about. And he even said many times, it was amazing actually how compassionate he was, because he was able to finally do this and do it once because of his skills with being able to handle people who were combative. But basically he was talking about, you know, lots of things that he talked about could be different because timelines could change depending on which timeline the person went down, how much love they decided was, you know, a part of their life. That those timelines could change, so the information could change. And there was so much stuff that he was giving. He went beyond what he was supposed to say. He got slapped on the hands a little bit. But yeah, it was really interesting. But my sense was that
cool.
Yeah, that the timelines have changed, and so the reality of how it's going to play out compared to some of what he said is going to show up differently for us at this point.
Okay, I'm going to talk real seriously about timelines. This will help the next sort of conversation that I wanted to stem forward. And really, I'm going to try to share everything I know about timelines and everything that I experience, and as best as I can, hopefully so that you won't even have questions.
Okay.
It starts with there's the timelines, plural, are potentials.
Yes.
But more importantly, there's only yours.
Right.
You are the only timeline that exists, and the timelines, plural, are the timeline potentials, as if everything is a buffet. Mm-hmm. And it's up to you to choose what you want to eat, but you won't choose to eat everything at once. There's some things you may choose to leave till later, and you'll come back if you still got room in your stomach. But the timelines are there to map out your reconnection to source, right? They're established in a certain way because one experience can draw upon a next. Mm-hmm. The progressional cycle of thought and the progressional cycle of activity, whether it's thought or actual action, action and reaction and whatnot. The progression is easy to observe, and that's why we've been given, or we choose the word timeline as if it's a line that we can visualize and perceive, right? As if procedurally we can predict a great many things. However, the definition of what we've used as timelines in times past is less and less relevant as we raise in our ability to live in our hearts and not live via a program. Mm-hmm. Because the program itself is based on organization of thought, ego thought, not higher being thought, but ego thought. And the higher beings of all of us at this time have really gotten through to the ego more and more, to the point where the egos are making less and less standard thoughts, or following through with less and less standard observations, you might say. The ego really is just an observer. Everything that you have in your mind and that you imagine, that's your higher mind. Your imagination is nearly entirely that higher mind relationship going on between your ego and it. Now, your feelings are there to remind you of exactly your relationship to being accepting and resonating with your higher mind's state of fulfillment. Now, higher mind doesn't have like a state of fulfillment like the ego does. So you have to understand the state of fulfillment that a higher mind has versus an ego mind. The ego mind has a very standard approach to fulfillment. It's if for, therefore, then, that, thus. Which means if this, therefore, that, essentially. The higher mind doesn't have that. It says if, therefore, anything.
Right. Right.
So anything, you might say, ties back to, well, realizing that you're a great luminous being. But not even that. The higher mind is like, we don't have a schedule for returning to our awareness of God. Just forget about that. For the most part, just be aware that there is always more for you to explore of yourself. You could say there's more to explore in the world, but there's more to explore of yourself. So when we look at timelines, everything that the higher being wants to do is to remind you that there is no timelines. Okay? Now, take this back to the original subject, and that was the timelines that are predicted, and the timelines reflective that the Hidden Hand shared, and timelines that even I've shared with regards to what to expect next. What can we see? What can we expect? It's much more expected when you're thinking from your ego mind. When you're thinking from your heart, there's nothing you can really expect besides discovering the fulfillment of your realization that you are connected with much more than your ego is aware of. So it's almost like as you download more access to your higher mind, that alone is fulfillment for this period in time and right now. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, it was not the same thing. But currently, in this phase in time, for the higher mind to get edgewise a bit more say on the reality that your ego is perceiving is kind of what makes people excited. Now, let's look at the Cabal's situation. They are coming from a completely ego-based reality. This ego-based reality is established to some degree, and yet for some people we could say it's absolutely chaotic. It's absolutely bonkers. It doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't make sense to us because we don't follow the same rules. Our society and reality has a certain, established rules for operation of life, and theirs has another one completely. Like the moral codes are flipped around and twisted. The moral codes don't really pertain the same way. And there really is no right and wrong between the two, but they are two different worlds. For us, for the world that we perceive that is not the Cabal world, for us to be even able to have a discussion with, say, a Cabal member, because their reality, they just see us as, or previously saw us as chattel, just pawns and whatnot, and those that are not awake. For us to be able to see their world is to acknowledge the way that they see it, to have empathy with the way that they see it. The more that develops, the more and more they have a future that is not relegated to continuing to do what they're doing. You see, it's sort of like an opening. And that's why there's people talking about forgiving them and making a space and whatnot, and opening up our hearts to what they've gone through. and what they've done to hold themselves in this role that they're committed to. But there's no such thing as a role for any soul that is anything but freedom. Freedom is that full range of expression. It's that full space of discovering oneself. So, as I was saying earlier, one of the greatest, highest motivations of a lot of our higher beings is to explore ourselves, is to explore our potential and reality. Now, within the Cabal reality, that's not given a whole lot of space and dedication for them to explore their spiritual, expansive experience of life. It would appear, at least from what we've read of the Hidden Hands work, that they really don't have a whole lot of choices at all. That they're, although appearing to be very chaotic from our standpoint, it's very cut and dry as to the way that they are meant to operate. And the real reason why they're tired here is because they've been looking forward to this negative harvest, so to speak. And they've been working towards this negative harvest. And this negative harvest is a rare celestial occasion that it works out. And on one level, it's an attempt. And on another level, it's already successful. The difference is that every time that an experience moves forward, it creates a space for someone to experience something following that. Sort of like children following in our footsteps. They don't have to learn how to use the internet like, us as adults had to learn the internet from scratch. It took us years, but now children are getting it right off the bat. So it's as if their experience opens a gateway for those following them to continue to experience this negative polarity as a choice. Now, you know how you may not be a Cabal member, but you can be born, an axe killer and murderer, right? We're all familiar with the psychopaths that, are born and do anything and absolutely crazy, and they go about and they're, we call them dangerous or whatever. And we say, this psychopath has no role in our society. Kick him out. But it's funny because the Cabal Society says, hey, we're looking for guys like you. It really comes down to where are you wanting to explore and where are you supported? Okay? On one level, I have witnessed a couple planets that I've seen that's been shared with me through higher beings and other people's higher beings of planets where they're barbaric. They're like Conan the Barbarian. They're like, dicing people's heads and stuff. And
I've been privy to that straight up lucidly as well.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, holy moly. That's still out there. Like, wow, like that is still out there. And I have a pair of 7-dimensional Pleiadians who sort of like try to calm me down when I explore sometimes that way. And they say, hey, they went there on purpose. That's what they wanted to do. The same thing here. They came here on purpose. But there's many who are here, part of that Cabal environment, who also want to go through their upgrade of DNA and explore beyond the confines of their program. And those will be those that will begin interacting with more and more as they basically find that their inner reality is dominant over their outer reality. And we'll find more and more of those. And I think with this coming Pleiadian invitation that it's going to cause a certain kind of shakeup, a certain kind of, hey, these guys got away with this, and people still love them. Like, there are people out there that will love them. Don't we deserve the same thing? And they do. And on one level, the higher beings of themselves stand fast to being a part of the evolution of this planet. But this concept of a negative harvest is only for those individuals that are still committed to it. And if it's in their ego to do it, then they will continue to seek it. But if it's not in their higher being or their heart, they're going to be, pedaling backwards, trying to go up a hill. And it's those individuals that we may find on our doorstep, wanting to take a moment to take their ego, put it aside, and try to figure out why those who are so awakened right now are enjoying life without being a total prick. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a bit of a monologue.
That's cool.
But
Formative.
that's relatively shared from this other identity from Julian. He's kind of wanted to say a couple things. And part of it's already come through from what I've said. And I believe this connection is already was already sort of predestined, because I didn't know that this event was going to happen with the Pleiadians. But it was as if it was predestined that he would be available for this conversation. Now, I do have the ability to unlock the door to the real nasty guy, but I don't know if you guys are up for that.
Huh?
He's very high in the structure. He's practically non-physical.
Is this the same guy you talked to before? No.
Yeah, the guy that was creepy, that I was shouting and stuff.
Yeah.
No on him.
I don't care.
You don't mind?
I'm neutral enough to.
I think what would be very beneficial before you do that is for us to spend a moment and really get into a strong heart space.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody wants to lead, some sort of, for me, I do it best in my own silence.
Okay.
But with each one of you, I think if we just spend a moment and really get fully into our heart space, and because it's the only space we're going to be able to meet him and be of any use.
Yeah, it's the only way that I can even have him available.
Okay.
I simply block him out. If I don't have the true neutral state.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Is
he
everybody
trying
else
to
okay
get
with
through
this?
to you on a regular? Is he trying to get through to you on a regular basis?
He is not. I've literally closed the door on him. So he doesn't. He once did. When I was closer to having things open, I realized that I can close doors on things, and I did have a conversation with him back in December. I believe it was the last time I spoke with him.
Yeah,
But he lets
go
me
ahead.
know that he is just outside the door.
And what do you feel the benefit would be, and what do you feel that his
Contribution?
pardon?
Contribution?
Yeah, contribution or agenda or whatever might be.
Well, I can ask him that question.
Okay.
You might not get a straight answer though, right?
But you can tell whether it is or isn't. Is that correct?
Yes. I'll share it in a very short burst, sort of like peeping open the door,
Okay.
saying, "What do you want?"
Okay.
Be clear, state your intentions. What do you have to share that will offer this group perspective that will enlighten the awareness of the all? He's being very clear that he wants to share the perspective that he's being run over by a tire. That his viewpoint is not reaching the masses, despite Hidden Hand having shared. There is a lot of development since then he wants to share in perspective.
I feel pure love right now, so I am open.
Yeah.
Okay. He says this will only take 5 minutes. He says there is a money system, and right now the word he's using is fiasco. It's not working for either side. It's not working for people like me, and it's not working for him. He's sharing that they're all aware that they can't pull the money system together. The money system is not going to be able to be rehabilitated. There is a form of energy that is countenance to its success, as our side might know it. He wants us to know that there is no solution, that things like Nasara are broken by those who will seek to make short gains. He wants to let us know that there are individuals that are brilliant, that can perceive and support a broken structure. They're geniuses, economic geniuses out there, and they are pinging them, that they are talking to them and building connections with them. This is within the last 2 weeks. They are given every courtesy they can offer. It's somewhere in the environment of 25 individuals. Several of them are in China and in India. Only a couple in the United States. 8. He wants to share that this negative harvest is not understood by yours and our side. It is an ordainment by God.
Yes.
From his perspective.
Sorry.
This ordainment by God is non-negotiable. This is literally what their higher beings must fulfill. They will continue to follow a reality with anyone that is in balance with their reality. At this time, they realize that the numbers will be low. The numbers will be very low, much lower than they anticipated. And on one level, there is perspective of failure. There is perspective of futility. Yet on another perspective, there is illusion. The illusion can be maintained that success is all that it can be. The success is within those individuals that hold the mission highest. Even though they know that the awakening phase of right now is affecting their ranks at all levels. But those at his level and above are aware that they will continue to choose to be and relate and intend that the negative harvest will occur, if only in their dreams. On one level, they know that they can transition to density which is dreamlike and more fulfilling and easier to manage than this level of density. And they do that from their connection to their less than physical or broader selves. However, this physical side is not lost if, and only if, they meet one specific requirement that they are all in alignment with. And that is the mass, best word is education. The mass education of this history of reality manifest via the imagination and via our sources. It is the only way to walk forward with heads held high, egos held high, if everyone knows how things come to be. They're not teachers, and they don't expect those listening here to be teachers either. But as we resonate understanding, and those who are hearing this have high understanding, as we resonate understanding, the future will come closer to us with those understanding and by nature forgiving all and every one of us, as they will know no one truly is above anyone else, and no one is more a creator than anyone else, and that reality is a function of our proclivity. And they are aware at this time that in this space on this planet, that proclivity is seeking freedom from program, and that it is a deprogramming sentiment that people are feeling. This program that they've established had a purpose. It's already been cleared as a legitimate program by those of more aware perspectives. They know that this program will persist in other dimensions and spaces. On Earth, will that dimension persist? They don't know themselves. But there are those who are still committed, and they will move forward. They will experience dimensions where the full negativity harvest will come to pass. And yet those here listening, this is a thank you for being who you are and discovering yourselves, as this is inspirational to them to let go and grow.
Can I say something?
He's gone.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to thank him. I felt him. I felt him. I felt that energy, and I know what they're doing is from. I know it. What he said about the fact that we don't understand the harvest. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted to make it more clear. That's exactly how they meant it. They have to do this. This is from God that they do this. They had to create this, and they have to. They don't have a choice. But they are doing it because they love us so much. And it sounds counterintuitive, but that's exactly what it is. And I know that.
That's it's man, I don't even know how to explain it. Feeling him that close.
Julian.
It's as if their soul family is just doing what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they agreed to come here and do this so that we could evolve.
Yeah.
and they didn't, once they made that contract, they couldn't go back. They had to. The only way to get out for them is to fulfill the contract.
Right, and so they always deserve our compassion and not our disdain.
Absolutely.
And that's what, at least I've been trying to get across to a lot of people that I talk to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And as as you were talking, the warmth, and there wasn't any intimidation I felt. It was sincerely like people sitting down and saying, this is the way it is. Mm-hmm. We're working on it. We're doing it. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And
I felt your love.
Tears.
I felt
tears.
Love. Yeah, me too.
And I've got like this incredible headache with that level of concentration that I was trying to hold.
Thank you so much, Julian. That was brilliant. That was so wonderful that you did that. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
sorry for your headache, though.
That's cool. No, it's not a migraine. It'll go away. Well, I'm thinking of wrapping this up for tonight. I think we should do this again and have types of powwows.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
But is everyone comfortable with me sharing this on like YouTube or something?
Sure.
I am.
Dan, are you there?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to throw in that I pretty much agree with everything everyone was saying, but I just have kind of a meta angle on it, in that I'm feeling more in tune with that, as he's expressing they're expressing, or he is expressing what they know as their cosmology, and that's
just one reference. Yeah,
it's one perspective on the reality that we're in. And I don't necessarily share that, but I can definitely feel that they cannot see anything else.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that's powerful.
I feel like this person is very intense. It's really, I don't want to say hard for me to have him this close to me, but my personal defenses are like take energy to sort of like be super aware while speaking and watching every word that comes forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could tell by the way you were speaking, you were sort of choosing your words almost as you went.
Okay. You can't even think when you're talking that way. That's the other thing. I don't know if that's considered channeling or not. I don't know.
Right.
It sure felt like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounded really like it as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to listen to it and see exactly. I'll have to be reminded what was actually said. I sort of followed it.
Yeah, I could feel his, through you, I could feel his understanding and appreciation for our awakening, and for holding the vibratory level that we've gotten to, because we can be in compassion and love for all parts of this, which is, that means that he actually, while he still has to do his, and you have to realize the 94%, and I think it's 94, not 95%, but 94% harvest is not harvesting us. It's them that have to reach a 94% negative level. The harvest is separate from the 94% negative that they have to create.
Yes.
It's not a 94% harvest that they have to create. For them, they have to stay at a 94% negative in their actions where we're involved. And for them, that's the only way that they can move into that space that they can go into anyway, but they can't be free yet until they stay within that 94% negativity to themselves. The harvest itself, they really hope that on another level, and their higher self level, they hope that the harvest is small for them and that people wake up, because that's why they came here.
Yeah. I'm going to share one thing that is coming to me a little bit. Some people may not know why there's a value in the 94% harvest. Like, so what? Why don't we just all be happy? You know? Why don't we all just reconnect to God? Why all this, control structure? Why even have a negative path? Well, there's an amazing benefit to that. Mm-hmm. Is that when you have enough energy, you get to create a new dense reality. By focusing and narrowing energy into focal points and stringent rules and whatnot, you get to create the next level of coalesced, compact energy reality. This has been done before. This just happens to be the next stage. Does that make sense? It's as if we live in a density right now of energy coalesced that is the most dense there is. Mm-hmm. That we know, that we're aware of, that we experience. This is where you, as a soul, move the fastest. Right? Energy is very intense here. Right. The intention is to create a new strata of density. The next layer of it's almost like creating a physical hell. Mm. That's a whole new place to explore for a soul. You see. Mm-hmm. It will be manifest when there's enough conscious effort put towards its existence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and one of the things that I remember reading too is that they said, even for those people those beings who, who do, go up to fifth dimensional reality, who raise their vibration to that level, there will be those who aren't ready yet to do that. And for them, even though they may reach their own 94% negativity and be able to leave, there will be others who will be able to come in and fulfill that role.
And carry that torch. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, because three-dimensional reality is about contrast.
And then there's a whole other level of contrast available. Mm-hmm. I think people have been down particularly harrowing drug addictions may know a little bit about that reality. Mm-hmm.
About which reality?
About the reality that is particularly painful, and yet you don't die.
Oh,
yet
man.
You don't end it immediately.
Yeah, my childhood wasn't too far from that.
Oh.
Yeah, I have a lot of familiarity with that for sure.
But I know that I created that, and I know that I chose that to be the contrast so that I wouldn't tap into the program so easily like everybody else did. I would always have that feeling of not belonging to that because it never felt right because it was so painful. Mm-hmm.
And well, the point also noting the point of creating a more hell reality is just for the slingshot effect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Just for the slingshot effect to return you to full awareness.
Big time. And the more the contrast, the faster the slingshot.
Yeah.
The stronger.
That's why I started.
Very uncomfortable ride. That's all it is.
And one that we chose.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say one that we chose absolutely in full knowledge and understanding and compliance before we came here.
Well, anyhow, I think let's wrap up. Thank you for joining me, guys, today. And I think this has been a really great discussion, everybody contributing and whatnot. Yeah. I'd like to do this again.
Yes.
And anyone who's listening to this, if I happen to put it online, I'm sure you can find all of us on Facebook if you want to care to share the conversation. Right.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you,
bye-bye,
Crystal and Sheri and Dan. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. This was great.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Bye, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.